I want to tell you a little bit about the reason why I have called this inside out activism. Because there are people out there who are talking about inside out, coaching and inside out parenting. It's not like it's brand new, but I added the word activism to it because it actually came from my own perception of some things that were happening that I felt needed to really be addressed in the world. And the gist of it is this. I see that a lot of the ways that we do activism in this world, we are advocating for one group of people or one group of something. And very often, in the process of advocating for that, we cause harm to other people. And there's a psychological way that people have justified it. Like that, well, you know what? We need to do this. We need to, give more rights to women, or we need to save the whales, or whatever we need to do. And there might be a way that other people are being hurt along the way. And I know for a fact, at least one, but many, at least one I know secondhand, but very, very close person in my life who's told me very clear story about ways that organizations, large organizations that have knowingly advocated for their cause, even though they were positive that it was going to harm another group of people. But because their cause was so important, they became so focused on their cause that they were not considering that negative impact. So when I started to see this happening more and more, and a lot of times I don't have evidence to back up my claims, but I could see it over and over again, and I could see people become hyper-focused and be willing to really act out of integrity with themselves in order to advocate for some bigger cause. It started to make me just question, is this really the way to do things? The other factor in this is that I think that our problems have become so complex and we're so interconnected and we're so global now that we can no longer just advocate for a group of people and not pay attention to those impacts, because it's so far reaching that it's not like you can pretty much count on that anything that you do in one area will touch something else. Maybe that's always been that way, but it's certainly more obvious that it is now. I was listening to a guy named Daniel Schmactenberger, and he was talking about something called closed loop solutions. Now, I am positive I will botch this up, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is my interpretation of a closed loop solution. My interpretation is this. It is a solution that considers many people's perspectives, comes from as conscious of a place as possible, has a very elevated view of what's going on, takes into consideration many, not just the one problem we're trying to solve. It's also pays attention to the possible consequences from this. And it also is, it doesn't cause, we have considered how it could cause harm, and we do the best we can to not cause harm to anyone or anything by doing it. And in an ideal world, it's generative. And so what it is a closed loop solution is a circle. It doesn't cut people out. It feeds into itself. It makes itself like a better system by including many, many, many aspects of it. So it needs to be more nuanced. It needs to include more people. It needs to include more perspectives. So it's a very important, an important way of looking at things, in my opinion. But I do believe that it's going to change. I almost see the way that someone who's advocating for a specific group of people without a closed loop perspective is actually on a line. They're on a straight line, and they're just moving in a direction, and they're just focused, and they have a singular focus. And if along the way people are getting hurt, they almost can't even see it because they're in a tunnel, and they're just moving towards some type of mission. And what I also see is often people are advocating for something, and every time they get to where they want to go, they move the goalpost again to go further. And that often is causing even more harm. It's not with an analysis and assessment like, hey, have we gotten to a place where we're doing okay and we're doing well, and or a place where it's like, well, wait, you know what, we've had to do it this way in the past. Maybe we did, maybe people have had to. I don't know. I can't make that assessment. But here we are now, we're 2020 and we're at this whole new level of consciousness. Maybe we can look at how we can bring together many stakeholders and consider many people's perspectives in this right now. And maybe we can give the benefit of the doubt that more people will actually believe in our cause and we don't have to fight as hard anymore, right? So there are just other ways that we're not, I think that a closed loop solution already has that baked into it and built into it. But the most important piece that I'm actually here stating is that I believe that each one of us has a piece of the solution, and that it is our imperative to be ourselves. And that is actually what's going to change the world, because imposing upon other people a way of being, like, you need to do this, you can't do that, we are going to change the laws on this, we're going to put regulations on this. Ultimately, we might need to do some of that. I'm not saying that there's none of that that's necessary, but and I also know that none of this is going to happen in my lifetime or come to completion in my lifetime. But I really believe that when we do things from the inside out, when I do my own work, when I heal my wounding, when I become a more conscious human being, when I improve in my relationship with myself, when I connect to myself, when I am a more whole person, when I care about and love myself, it is incredibly hard for me to not love the planet. Like, loving myself creates the right environment for me to more deeply love the planet, to more deeply love my children, to more deeply love my partner and my family members and my friends, to bring more of me and my true self, my authentic, true, high integrity self to everything I do. And ultimately, this is what I really think. I believe that when we try to change the world from the outside in, what happens is we create a world based on our current awareness, our current level of consciousness, and also many, many fears and limiting beliefs that cause us to create a world that is far less amazing than the world we can create from the inside out. Because the world we create from the inside out, it is a mystery. We don't know what we're creating. But what we do is we come from the place of that if I'm my most authentic self and I am bringing my gifts and my love and my compassion to this world, and you are too, and more people do, we are actually fulfilling what I think is almost like a soul contract, which is my obligation to be my most true self. Like, literally, like, I believe that none of us are a mistake and the universe is not a mistake, and that each one of us has an incredibly important piece of the universe's puzzle. And that it is in the not bringing ourselves, it is in the externalization, it is in the idea that I think my brain has the answer that is actually causing us to not have the right solutions for this world. The solutions are going to come from the inside out, from each of us living from the inside out, being our most true selves, bringing our voices, our perspectives, our own unique way of looking at the world, and bringing them together and creating solutions from that place. And creating these closed loop solutions that ultimately are generative and actually do change the world for the better. So that's the crux of what I'm doing. And if a person wants to do advocacy work still, my goal, my hope is that they come from the place of doing their inner work first. So they're not, people talk about like anger being a great way, like a fuel to, ignite action. But anger without understanding the underlying reasons why we feel angry comes from a place of not being as pure. And it does run the risk of hurting other people. And ultimately, when we hurt other people, when we act out in integrity with ourselves, we're not really bringing what we are meant to bring here. We end up bringing an energy that actually perpetuates a lot of the things that we're trying to resolve. Like if we want peace in our heart, if we want peace in the world, we need to make sure that we have peace in our hearts, and then peace in our families, and peace in our communities, and peace in our workplaces, and then it ripples out to everything else. It starts with us. If we're in judgment of somebody out there, we need to look inside and see, how can I be in integrity with that which I am looking and expecting that other person to be? And then how can I bring that into my family, into my community, into my workplace, out into the world? It starts inside. It's much easier to externalize. It's much easier to judge and blame and try to change things from that perspective, because it doesn't touch our hearts quite as profoundly. It doesn't require us to do our own work. But ultimately, I am positive that the path is from the inside out.